Why, hello there, and welcome to the Elden Wait. Today is day 670 since it was first announced at E3 2019. And how's everyone doing tonight? You might notice there's a new setup. I apologize for the delayed stream on Wednesday. That was due to a poor internet connection, so I moved my whole desk so I could actually connect directly into my router. So hopefully that takes care of issues moving forward. But yeah. So the schedule for tonight is that I am going to we're going to look at some bingo cards that people put on my Discord server, and just sort of look. They are sort of guessing what an eventual gameplay trailer might have in it. So, um, so yeah, that's the plan for tonight. But before diving into that, I quickly wanted to just give a shout out to, and sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Adi Sardesai, who donated to the Able Gamers fundraiser that I am running, and I very much appreciate that. You can find the Able Gamers fundraising link in the description below, and that is running until April 15th. And on April 15th, I think I'm going to do a special earlier stream to sort of close that out. So look forward to that on Thursday next week. I'm hoping to do something for that, but yeah. So, but I just wanted to give a shout out for that. It's awesome donating if you're able to. It goes toward a good cause, lowering barriers toward people, being able to game, and I think that's great. So, there you have it. But so with that, let's get into the bingo cards and just see what people are guessing at, and feel free to throw out just reactions, whatever else, comments, questions as we just look through them. Just thought it'd be fun to sort of look at what people are thinking may show up in a gameplay trailer whenever that happens. So let's see. All right. Okay, so here is the first one, and so here is what we have, and I don't have the names for the people associated with these. I apologize. If it's yours, and you're in the chat, feel free to shout out. Otherwise, just sort of looking at what this first one says is Backstab Animation. We saw that in the leaked trailer, so that makes a lot of sense. And Golden Tree, pretty easy bet, especially if that is such a central focal point on the map. The moon, also something we saw in the leaked trailer. And it's interesting, I don't know how much of that leaked trailer, if anything, will be seen. And I think if it is seen, it will be somewhat different. So. And next, Undead Enemies. And, that's an interesting one because we don't know the nature of what, how From may go about explaining how enemies, come back to life, or what sort of, lore ties into the mechanics for you coming back to life. So it'll be interesting to see if there are undead again in this. I mean, From deals with immortality all the time. So, yeah. Yeah, and then we have release date. And, I really hope for a gameplay trailer there is a release date, or at least a release window, if not a release date. So I'm there on that one, but who knows. But and then Swamp, just going for the From Software classics there. Horseback combat. I would like to see more horseback combat. One thing that was surprising about the leaked trailer, and you can't take anything too seriously with the leaked trailer, but there wasn't much in the way of horseback combat. And you'd think if that's such a feature, like that's one of the two things Miyazaki really mentioned about Elden Ring in his interviews. It's funny that that didn't show up more. Bonfire system. It will be interesting to see what sort of save points they have. I don't know if that will necessarily show up as something we could figure out for sure in a gameplay trailer, but who knows? It's very possible. And the giants from the leaked trailer. I would love to see them again because it would mean they're still in the game, because I thought that enemy design was really cool. So, you know, I would love to see them again as just confirmation that they're still in the game, because I liked that design. So overall, pretty good bingo thing there. I think this one here is a pretty good chance for a bingo. You know, right across the top row. So I think it's doable. Next one. So they start off with the Moonlight Greatsword, and I would, it's tough to say because I don't know. We saw something that looked very indicative of a Moonlight Greatsword with that final scene in the leaked trailer, but it's hard to tell if what that would be, and I would be surprised if they do reveal specifically the Moonlight Greatsword. A barefoot woman. I mean, we know how Miyazaki is, so there you go. The Elden Ring. I would be hard pressed to know if we would know what we were looking at was the Elden Ring, because I think the nature of it is supposed to be mysterious. So I'd be surprised if we saw it and we're like, yeah, that's the Elden Ring. And a hollowing system. Again, as we were mentioning with the undead enemies, it'll be interesting to see if they get into what sort of system lore explains you coming back to life, how that works. But it could be something that show up. And then O is very likely so far. O will, it showed up so far, so it's possible. Patches, I think they would save a patches. I don't know if we'd see it in a gameplay trailer, but who knows. Panic rolling, for sure. Yeah, I see some panic rolling. An old hag, it's a pretty good guess. Then an indirect insult to the player, you tragic thing. Probably. I feel like that's the tone. And before I move on to the next one, let me dive into chat for a second. Midi Go says, when do you think we'll have official news from Software on E3 or before? Sorry if I blew into my mic at all. That is a great question. I am still holding on to getting something before E3, as I'm holding. So here's my current thing, and it's not really based off of anything in particular. If we don't get some smoke before Thursday, April 15th, is sort of an arbitrary middle of the month. My Team April prediction is, I think it's kind of dead. That being said, if Bandai Namco does an event where they show off like Digimon, Tales, Elden Ring, because they have a bunch of games that they need to show off. If they do decide to do like the next event or something along those lines, a lot of these publishers have been like, Nintendo gave 1 day. They can because they're Nintendo. PlayStation gave 2 days notice for a show. So they're not giving us weeks and weeks. So we could still have something squeak into April. But I where I am pretty much right now is I am on still barely hoping for Team April, and I'm at spring 2022 now, guys. I apologize if that it just feels like the way games are going right now is that we would have a 2022 date just because everything's getting delayed still. So, I just think it's more likely at this point. But I really, if there's any chance of a 2021, I think we'd have to see it really freaking soon. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But yeah. Hello, hi please Hydra. I'm glad you're able to catch it. And yeah, let's see. What Crunchy That Munchy says, what would you like to see in the game? Right now, lots of lore. Because, I am ready for a big old fantasy world to dive into. And otherwise, I need to see more of the game to start to have too many expectations. I let interviews and trailers build expectations, and I don't wish list a whole lot. I mean, I've talked about plenty of things I'd like to see here before, but as specific things I want to see in the game, I would love to see from generally do something new and interesting. I don't mind if it's still built on the foundation of Dark Souls, but I need something new in there to mix up the experience. So, Pablo Calderon, wait, is there a trailer coming soon? Hopefully, who knows? There's nothing official right now indicating a trailer. So, that's where that is right now. And let's move on to the next. I think there's about 5 of these. So, let's move on to the next one of these bingo cards. Okay. The next one starts off with fixed bonfires or checkpoints. I don't know if we would get that necessarily from a gameplay trailer. I think that might fall into something more like a vertical slice of gameplay. But I'm thinking from what I've heard that is most likely the case. I don't know if it's different in the open world versus like the dungeons that are supposed to be more like classic Souls dungeons, but there we go. And then new magic system. Again, I hope we would see some new spells. I mean, I know in the leaked trailer we saw stuff that was very clearly from Dark Souls, but I'm going to just hope that was just because it's old footage. I would really like, Omnipotent mentioned more like schools of magic and stuff, and magic having a greater role in the world and having it tie into like, faction like philosophies and stuff like that he mentioned in posts. So I'd really hope that we'd see some new interesting stuff in the magic department. Horse combat boss. Now that is a good one. I would really like to see that, I should say. But I think that's a good guess there, because I'd love to see more horse combat, and I would like to see it. You could maybe think that the dragon, is sort of a horse combat boss, but we didn't see them on horse, but they were seemingly in an open world. So does not open from this side. I don't know if we would, in like a gameplay thing, you could make a really good argument that in like a vertical slice, like 10-minute gameplay segment, you would probably see that. I'm sure it will be in the game, because that's just in every From game. More than 8 players at the same time. Now, this brings up an interesting thing. Will we see multiplayer in a gameplay trailer? I don't know if we would see it right out of the gate. There's just so many variables, but that would be very good to see, because I would really like that just officially confirmed. I know that's huge for people, and I would just like that to be out there. And we've heard from Omnipotent it's in, but I would really like, just to ease people, get some official information, because that's been something that we've talked about here on the channel plenty, is how will multiplayer work in an open world game like this? How will it change? So can get inside the golden tree. It's an interesting guess. I don't know what function that is. It does look kind of transparent in the leaked trailer, so which almost makes me think it's more of a landmark than something you like go into, but who knows? New weapon types apart from flails. Yeah, that would be cool. The Miyazaki's mentioned more weapons and magic than ever before, so show a little bit of that off. Show some new stuff. Crystal lizard equivalent. It's very possible. Especially in like a vertical gameplay slice. There's a lot of these where, it's like an opening like gameplay trailer. If you're thinking of something like the Sekiro gameplay trailer, it didn't show tons of details. It was more general to give you the flavor. And then in like a vertical gameplay slice, they did show a lot more details. So I could see that happening. And then new punishment for dying. Again, I think we will see the player dying in a trailer, but I don't know if we will understand what the punishment is until until an interview or a longer just a gameplay sort of chunk. So let's see before moving on. Hello, Beluda. Nice to see you. Let's see. Let's see what else we have here. Crunchy That Munchie says, do you prefer weapons like in Dark Souls, quantity over quality, or Bloodborne, quality over quantity? I personally would rather take like a Bloodborne approach, but Miyazaki's already said they're putting, more weapons and stuff, more magic in. So I think the reality is that there's going to be a bunch of straight swords. Hopefully they make a more meaningful way of differentiating them, whether that's through some sort of weapon arts or just something. So it'll be interesting. And then but on the plus side, that's more item descriptions for me to read. So I will take more lore, I guess, is my silver lining. But I prefer like a Bloodborne thing where every weapon feels like it has a purpose and it's interesting and you can do something different with it. I think that is more my speed because I tend not to be super build heavy when I play. I like what I like and I kind of use that. But with Bloodborne, it was easy to like try out different things, and you're not like, okay, there's a million of these swords and they're all essentially the same. Just because I don't get super technical with that. So, I prefer the Bloodborne system personally. Let's see. Solaris, do you think there will be underwater combat similar to Sekiro? I don't think there will be, just because they would have to design a whole system that doesn't necessarily make sense for different builds, and they would have to justify how someone in heavy armor or someone in light armor approaches that. And I think that was very specifically something that From Software saw as an opportunity in Sekiro because it was a fixed character who was a shinobi, so they understood what they could have a shinobi do and have it remain internally consistent within the world, where I think they're just stretching that to a point that doesn't make as much sense for them. And I think Miyazaki has kind of indicated that just by how you heard them talk in Sekiro about how they were really getting you into the mindset of a shinobi and all these things you could do versus this where you're really role playing and having different tactics. I don't think something like swimming fits into that, but we've seen the jump, so I think the jump sort of button, so it seems like there will be more just general open world movement, and then you of course will have the horse, which I think is plenty on their plate anyways. The dude Taz says, do you like the weapon abilities like in Dark Souls 3? I think weapon arts in Dark Souls 3 are a good concept that I think could be fleshed out more to be more interesting. I just think if they did more with something like that, it could be really interesting. As it is, I didn't use weapon arts a ton in Dark Souls 3 just because I think it was still enough of just your normal Souls where I didn't feel like I needed to break into that. And I'm hoping that Elden Ring does more with it if they have something like that, and that they would sort of push it and make it more essential to play with those things. Beluda says, the most important thing for me is non-linear progression. Make every place available from the beginning. In my interview discussion with Dan Tack of Game Informer, he mentioned that as well, to just go out and be able to there's 4 people and you got to get to them and you can go in whatever order. I agree with both of you guys that I really, one of my favorite genres is Metroidvanias, and I feel like Dark Souls 1 feels very Metroidvania in its progression, despite not having abilities, and it does a good job of making you go back through areas in a similar manner. And I really would like a non-linear progression, not so much you could get that through spokes too, but I agree, I just like to have, it would be cool to organically feel like there's multiple ways to go. And just, sort of that open world feeling of, oh, I'm just going to take this path and see what happens, or take this one, versus I don't think Dark Souls 2 does a bad job of it, but it's more obvious, here you're going down here, or you're going down here, and it's going to lead to a path that ends in a bonfire that you just warp out of. But I don't think that's a bad thing. But I just like it a little more organic. Like I think Dark Souls 1, there's plenty of places to go from the start, and that's fun. But all right, let's see. Let's see. The dude Taz says helmets had abilities in the series, but it's very rare. I'd like to see more of that in armor types. Yeah, I think in general it'll be interesting to see, like, do they provide like abilities and stuff through rings? Do they do something like a gem system like in Bloodborne, where your weapons get abilities through certain like stuff you can slot into them? Like it'll be really interesting to see if they mess with that formula, and I kind of hope they do, just because I want something to be sort of different. So yeah. Azuna says, did you read Berserk? I am actually reading Berserk right now for the first time. I'm on volume 8 right now. So for those familiar with the series in Berserk, I'm at the big ass castle where there's that creepy governor guy, and I'm having bad feelings about the whole situation. But I'm going through Berserk right now, and I'm having a blast with it. To be honest, I've never read a manga before. This is my first one, and it's because I'm sort of biding my time, but it's really good, and I'm having a really good time with it. It's something that I am like keeping my little, I don't have it with me, my I'm reading it on Kindle, and I cannot keep that thing farther away from my kids. There is like no page in Berserk that is appropriate for children, but it's a really brutal, really good series. I'm really enjoying it. So if anyone else is sort of in a similar position where you don't typically read manga, it's really enjoyable, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm getting pretty invested, in the characters, surprisingly, and it just I know enough about the series just through osmosis that I'm like really waiting, like when something bad's gonna happen, you're just waiting for the hammer to fall. And the story itself sets it up that way. But it's really enjoyable. I actually, on Kindle right now, for anyone who's interested, it's like 75% off of fantasy right now. And so I made a sort of impulsive decision, and I just bought it all digitally at once, because it was only like less than $150, which is a lot to just go on, but I knew I could feel the momentum getting into it, and I just took the opportunity, because it means each volume comes to like $4 or something, so it's pretty affordable. Medigo says, what do you think about the rumors about the Demon Souls movie? I didn't see much pop up of that after the initial rumor, so I'm not really sure. I think it would be bad. Most likely. I've always sort of held that I think Dark Souls would be weird as like a live action thing, like the Souls games. I think that, here's my thing, is what I really like about the world of Dark Souls is like it has a great atmosphere, which a movie could tap into. But like part of that atmosphere is so much the fact that it's a video game, and that you just walk around and peek in corners and get item descriptions, and then think about where you are reading this item description and making inferences. So there's just so much that I enjoy about it that's not explicit, and I think that would make for a very strange movie. And Demon Souls is very much the same. I just don't know how you would do it. I wouldn't mind seeing it though, because I'm a Dark Tower fan, and the Dark Tower movie that came out a few years ago was terrible. But it mostly just makes me sad that no one else would tackle it, because I think Dark Tower could be a really awesome like TV show. But for like Demon Souls, sure, bring it on. Give me like a bad 90-minute movie, and I'll enjoy it, or enjoy it, and like whether or not I'm laughing at it or actually enjoying it is another question. But I think you know, I think it would work. This is just a live action movie feels super weird to me for like Demon Souls. So, but yeah. So let's move on to the next bingo card. Oh, great. Narrator starts with yes, indeed. This is the wrong series for that. No, it could, but I think they're not trying to be like, remember Dark Souls? I think they're really trying to make their own thing. So I think they have similar. I think they'll have something catchy like yes, indeed. And we've already seen things like "Oh, you tragic things," and then the entirety of the announcement trailer is very good. So I think they'll have something, but probably not that exactly. I do think it'll still be a male narrator. I think it may be a different character, to be honest, but who knows? PC dies to a tutorial boss. Probably. I think the PC, typically dies in these trailers at the end. I don't know if we would know it's a tutorial boss until like a gameplay thing, but you know, female PC, sure. I think open world, depending on what they went for, I think they might show a similar like thing where you have the variety of builds to just sort of show you the variety in the game. And I think they would show guys, girls, just to show you can customize your character, especially coming off of Sekiro. They would want to make it clear that you can customize your build and that it's an RPG and it's not just a fixed character. Similar healing mechanic. I would be very happy for like an Estus type thing. Like, obviously different lore, different explanation, but like the healing gourd, yeah. I just like that healing system. That's not a thing where I don't think they need to play with it. That being said, I don't think something like if you're going out and you're exploring an open world, having something like like the gems from Dark Souls 2, grasses from Demon Souls, I don't think it's bad to have something like that just to complement it. If you're meant to do some sort of like endurance out in the world, out in the wilderness sort of thing, but I don't exactly know the cadence and the density of incident and the density of checkpoints that they are intending, what sort of experience the open world is supposed to bring. Weather conditions affect gameplay. I think that would be awesome, and I think that is something we could see in the trailer. So I think that's pretty good. Revamped dodge. Who knows? Like, I prefer the dash in Bloodborne. However, I wouldn't be mad if it was like a roll still. I think that the system and the way armor and weight, equipment weight factors into rolling, I would like to see them play with that maybe. But if they don't, it's not the worst. It's just my problem sort of with armors in the Souls games is like I just go for a light roll because I'm used to the gameplay, and I think that is something that the community has gotten into, and you basically wear the heaviest armor where you can still light roll. And I just think it would be interesting for them to present armors in a new way so that I would just be thinking about things differently. Would be more interesting for me because then it would change how I approach combat. And if I'm approaching combat differently, then it's going to be way more exciting for me. Not that like getting more Dark Souls combat would be bad, but I think having something new would be more interesting. Arid desert area. Yeah, I think so. I think we could see that. So that would be awesome. And I think that's something you would see as a variety of landscapes in a gameplay trailer. And then no warping at the start. I don't know if we would know that in a gameplay trailer, but I don't even know if we would know that in a gameplay slice, to be honest. That would come up in like an interview or something. But I would like that. But Dark Souls 1, even in Dark Souls 1, you see that once you reach the midpoint, the developers, from software recognized the world was too big. They gave you the Lord Vessel, and the world reached a point where they needed to allow you to get around quickly to keep it interesting while also having a masterful first, like, third of the game where it was all interconnected like that. But for a world, if you're intended to go in like any direction and really get out there, I would think they might have warping at the start, just because if they're going for that scale, depending on how they do it, I still think they could do it well by having such limited fast travel points that it would still be interesting. Where you don't have a choice of like Dark Souls 2, where you're like, oh, there's like 40 bonfires I can go to. It's like a few main things that you can travel to. Trailer PC still using equivalent to longsword. Yeah, probably. Just because from as hell they are. It's that they've been doing it since Kingsfield, so why stop now? So, but yeah, I think you. Let's see. Let's see. Do I foresee a bingo? The odds of a bingo showing up. Tough one because it's hard to see for me 3 in a row that I think are like shoe-ins without some sort of caveat. But I think it's got a chance with some caveats. I think if you the left side vertically, if we have a catchy opening phrase, sure. Similar healing mechanic, yeah. If we see him chug or something, and then a desert, I think is pretty likely. I think you could get that vertical one pretty easily. Let's see. And now before moving on, I'll look at chat again. Let's see. If April flies by and we get nothing, it's game over for 2021, isn't it? That's sort of how I feel, Alexandros. I think that is something that could happen for sure. And, they could sneak out like a 2021 in like May or June, but it just seems so unlikely to me personally at this point that I really think it would happen by April. And as we're getting later in April, I feel less confident about it. So let's see. Bro Memento is saying my audio is kind of low. Does anyone else notice that my audio tends to be low? It's sort of balanced here, but if people generally feel like the audio is low, I could bump it up a little bit more. But the levels on my end look pretty good. But if that's a consensus, then in the future I will definitely try to bump that up a little bit. Let's see. Do you think they'll bring back Quick Blair asks, do you think they'll bring back a blood gem type system for weapons? I think that would be cool personally. I think that would be pretty nice. I don't know if they will just because that's Bloodborne for it, but I think that would be an interesting way to change, because I think they could iterate on that more, and that would be pretty cool. So I would be interested to see that personally. If my audio is good, then you heard the clinking of my ice cubes. Let's see. So yeah, it sounds like a few people think it's low, but generally it sounds like the audio is fine. It's hard to get stuff in like that. I've gotten better at balancing. If you guys have watched my videos for a while, I've occasionally put in like a sound in order to scare people, and I finally figured out you can make just use equalize to make a loud sound, but not have it literally be loud. But it seems like the audio is generally fine, but you're never going to be perfect for everybody. Also, my voice, I'm not a very booming person, so, I'll continue to look into that. I appreciate that sort of constructive feedback because I want to provide you just to be able to enjoy things without having to go over too many hurdles. But I think yeah. So let's see. Yes, there's a few people talking about like Dark Souls 3, the cut content about the movable bonfires. From what it sounds like, from what I've heard, it sounds like they will most likely be static. However, who knows exactly? But yeah, so it's something that I don't think will be an Elden Ring, but I think it would be pretty cool. I was sort of hoping that. And then I think Omni had sort of indicated that he thinks that they're going to be static, but we will see. Let's see. Do you think there'll be a lot of Game of Thrones lore? There may be a reference. I could see them throwing in a Song of Ice and Fire sort of reference. Let's see. And Joshua Halberton says, how would you feel about more elemental magic, not just fire? I think that's the direction they could go. Omnipotent, just mentioning that, there's more schools of magic and that they tie into different philosophies, and I could see them making that sort of elemental. It sounds like magic will have a lot of personality, so I'm excited to find out how that ties into the world, and hopefully that means that magic as a system has received some attention. Let's see. Quick Blur asks, do you see From trying to push another remake before the end of 2022? As far as what From is producing, I am not sure. From what I've heard in the general rumor is like From Software is working on Elden Ring and then like a mecha type game and then something else. And I don't know much about, cuz they've mentioned doing like an Armored Core type thing for such a long time now that I don't know what would be going on with that. I can't even figure out what's going on with Elden Ring, so I haven't put too much into figuring out what is going on otherwise. But I could see them releasing another game, like less than 2 years from the release of Elden Ring. I could see it coming a little bit faster. Let's see. QS2435 says, I hope Elden Ring has better NG plus and not just +1 rings and more HP like enemies in Dark Souls 3. Yeah, I think that would be cool. I think Dark Souls 2 did a pretty cool thing, and I don't know how difficult that was to implement, but Dark Souls 2 was the only one that where NG plus really interested me too much, and that's because, I'm also not... I'd rather build a new character typically than just keep going through New Game Plus. So I'm with you there. Let's see. Solaire asks, hello Solaire. You think Bloodborne might get a remaster? I think anything with Bloodborne as an IP, with the closing of Japan's studio, is not a good sign for Bloodborne. Which is a real bummer. I'm not happy with what Sony has been doing. And I think that's a real bummer. Okay, quick. We're talking about From having outside studios remake old games like Blue Point with Demon Souls. I know in a shareholder meeting for Katakawa, one of their things that they were talking about for games was trying to bolster their archive of older games, which could come in the form of remakes or re-releases. So, I think there could be something just with that as an indicator. Let's see. Valorant Balkan Edition asks, what about the combat? Do you think there'll be some Sekiro elements there? I don't think there will be much in the way of Sekiro in the combat, just because they're going for such different things. Maybe they have like a weapon that has like a deflect gimmick sort of thing, but I think that Sekiro was such a deep dive into being a shinobi, into having this specific character, and to forming the entire game flow around knowing what the weapon was and the movement, because it wasn't just a matter of putting in a deflect system and having it work that way. Like in some of the interviews before Sekiro came out, they talked about how they were like really carefully editing animations for bosses and enemies because everything had to be designed around the deflect system and getting that in there and getting that right. And that was just with one weapon. So if you're changing different weapons, different timings, like I think it just becomes something where, I don't see it happening in something where they're focusing on a breadth versus a depth of different builds. So I think that it'll be much more Souls-like in its base, and then the differences will be in terms of how a Souls game in an open world functions and the differences that they have to provide in a larger world. And I think it'll spring out from there versus Sekiro. But Joshua Halberton does mention, do you think they might do some kind of ability tree like in Sekiro? I do think that is something that they could explore more. I don't think it's out of the question that the way that they could differentiate weapons could be to provide some sort of skill tree for different weapons or something like that. So I do think that that's a possibility potentially. So, and I think that could be a kind of cool route to explore. Okay, with that, let's see. Yeah, let's get into the next one. So, next bingo card, new parry mechanic. Maybe, sure. I think that would be an interesting way to build it out. You know, because parrying is very integral to Souls, and I think everything that's is interesting with Souls. Everything that's integral to Souls, I see being something that they're going to include in Souls as a foundation, but then if they change it up or make it interesting as a way to build on that. So could they add in a different sort of riposte system, a new parry system? It's possible. Death screen, yeah, I think you that is possible. The Valkyrie lady from the announcement trailer, yeah, I could see that. Horsies, yeah, I mean there better be horsies in there because I'm all about them horsies. And if it's an open world game, they better show me riding around on that horsey. New type of magic again. Yeah, I'm thinking that's something a lot of people want to see. The Sea of Fog. If you're talking about seeing the ocean in a shot, I think that's pretty likely. A glaive, you know, possibly. Naked feet again. You know, we know how Miyazaki is, so sure, for sure. Portable bonfires. I'm not sure about that one, but if it is a thing, I could see them showing it. Let's see. Souls Noob says, I hope they try to put more emphasis on enemy weaknesses to mix up the combat. And, you know, if you're talking about something like Demon Souls, where elemental weaknesses were a bigger deal and the different types of weapon attacks were a bigger deal, I could see that being a thing, you know, to sort of do, just to force you to sort of move your tactics depending on the area, and just it helps give the areas more character too, I think. So I could see them doing more elemental and more attack type resistances. And Mirzadal says they might convert weapon arts into some kind of tree branch for specific weapon types. I could see that. Yeah, like some sort of, yeah, that's sort of been something I've been thinking about, is doing some sort of talent tree for weapons. I think could be an interesting way to take it, but of course that's not based off of any actual information, so we'll have to see what they actually do. And Valorant says, if it has new parry system, does that translate to no stamina combat? I would be wicked surprised if Elden Ring doesn't have stamina. I think it will have stamina. I'm just because they're talking about using Dark Souls combat as a foundation, and I think that's such a foundation for Souls combat. So it, you know, from there, who knows? But I would be very surprised if there wasn't stamina. Joshua Halburn says, so what do we call it now? Elden Soulsborne? I just call it Souls games myself. I didn't even hop on the Soulsborne part just because I'm like, I just start with the Demon Souls and Dark Souls as the basis for Souls games is plenty for me. Let's see. And let's move on to the next. I think this might be the final bingo card. Let's see. Player backstabs or parries enemy. Yeah, I definitely see that, especially if they have some sneaky mechanics, if they got some stealth in there. Player grabbed by a boss. That's a pretty good one. Scenery panning shot. Again, very likely. So I think we already got a bingo right across the top. Boss shown in cutscene. Very likely. Phantom, other player summoned. That would be awesome. I would love, I don't know if we'll get it, but I would love some indication of multiplayer for the PvP community to latch onto. NPC dialogue, sure. You know, low-hanging fruit here. I think we got lots of bingos with this one. Trailer between 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes, very likely. Player uses spell. Yeah. I think we might get the whole board on this one. Multiple enemies hit at once. Yeah, I think this one is very likely to grab all of these. So, you know, this one was not taking too many risks, but I think these are all very likely. And who among us would not love to see all of these things right now? So, let's see. Let's see. And let's pop on. Is this the last one? All right. Yeah, I think that was the last one. Yep. So those are the bingo cards. Let me double check in chat. Um, um, Jose C. Hopefully, there's a trailer coming soon. There's nothing official. This is. I wanted to have people, the community, make bingo cards in anticipation of a trailer, so that when one comes out, we can see who gets a bingo. And just as I think it's sort of a fun thing just to imagine what From Software would want to show for Elden Ring and sort of what people want to see. Um, the dude Taz says, "How do you feel about games where weapons/equipment level up based on how often it is used, or how often it absorbs damage?" It's sort of like a Skyrim thing, or to bring it closer to From Software. I'm playing Kingsfield 4 right now, and that's what they do. Like, if you hit 100 people with your sword, if you get hit, yeah, Elden, Elden Bingo. Why didn't I? Yeah, yeah. So is a system that From Software has used before in the Kingsfield games. That sort of approach where you hit stuff and you get better at it, basically. So it's possible. I don't know if they will go with that. I feel like that feels like a slightly older mechanic, but From Software don't care. They you know, they've been making the same game for like 25 years thematically, so they like what works. So they've used it before with Kingsfield, so maybe they could try a new version of it with Elden Ring. Alexandra C says, "Do you think it will warrant the long wait?" Um, I think that ends up being a subjective thing. As someone who has put uh, so many hours into making content and thinking about Elden Ring and talking about Elden Ring, yeah, it will 100% warrant the long wait, because either way, it will be an interesting discussion. And I don't hold super high expectations for this. I'm not even expecting like my my sort of holy trinity that I think a lot of people hold to, including myself, is Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and Bloodborne are like my three favorite of the games. And my expectations right now are not even that Elden Ring will breach the holy trinity, because I can't. I doubt I can even imagine it. Just because I need to see more. I don't put expectations beyond what I know, which is why I like to do the Elden Ring So Far series, and why I do this sort of stuff, because I really like having these discussions with you guys, and I like talking with people about what they're thinking about a game, and I really, as for what I do was for the community, I hope is to provide sort of a certain level of objectivity. Not that anything is truly objective when it comes to taste, but just sort of really focusing on interviews and what we actually see, so that when we get the game, we're taking it. My expectations, I like to pull them from what did the developer say that they were trying to do with the game, and did they succeed on that level? And then my own personal taste is fine for if I like the game or not, but I don't like to get mad at games for doing something that they weren't trying to do in the first place. And I don't really I've talked plenty about things I would like to see, but I am more interested in what From Software as artists of their medium are actually trying to do with Elden Ring, and then seeing how they succeed on that axis versus my own personal wish list, if that makes sense. Joshua Halbrand says, "How would you feel if Elden Ring had a sneak system?" I I think it does have a sneak system based off of the leak trailer and what Omnipotent has sort of hinted at or said. I cannot remember. I do not know for sure, but people have talked about the sneak system, and it does seem like it will have a. I guess there was an earlier question. If it's pulling anything from Sekiro, I do think it is pulling a similar light stealth system. So I do think that'll be kind of similar, and I'm super curious how they implement that in an RPG setting. If they attach any stats or proficiency to that, and I think that could be really cool to see. So, Jose C says, "Do you think the game will have its own identity, or it will feel too much like Dark Souls 4?" I think that will really depend on the person. I think From Software is trying to make Elden Ring feel distinct from Dark Souls, because I think that they could just call it Dark Souls if they were going to do it that way, but they're not calling it Dark Souls, and they're still working with Bamco, so they totally could, and I don't think Bamco would fight them on that. But it's clear that they want to do different things, so I don't think that they're trying to churn out a stealth Dark Souls 4. I think that they would just make Dark Souls 4 if that was their goal. I think that they have loftier goals than that, and they want Elden Ring to stand out in different ways. And at the very least, they'll have a new story, a new world. And so for me, in my particular interests, it won't feel like Dark Souls 4, just because it's a different world, and it's a whole new fantasy world to dive into. So I'm super excited to pull apart that story and world with you guys, and really, that's what I chew on after the game comes out, and that's where I'm diving into. Like, I've made, for those who don't know, eldenringlore.com is a website that exists. I have it, and I'm going to make that a nexus for lore, community lore, and story content, and collect that, because that's what I like to do. And I like to theorize about the story, and I like to see how cool the worlds are and how evocative they are, because From Software has never really failed me on that axis. Like, Sekiro wasn't as much my style, but for instance, Theomony, who I've had as a guest, she has gone into great detail in discussions with me, and I think in some content, just about how much they put into like Shinto beliefs and how interesting Sekiro is on that level, and how many details there are for those who are interested in those sort of things. I'm more interested in things that aren't based in reality, so I'm excited for a new fantasy world to pull apart. So for that reason alone, I don't think it's going to be Dark Souls 4 to me, but mechanically it could, but I think they're trying to make it meaningfully different. Yeah, Quick Blur says, "I think the fact that it's open world will set it apart enough to not feel like Dark Souls 4. I think that element and that openness is critical to what From Software is doing to differentiate Elden Ring, and I think it's something that's hard to understand until we see it. But knowing that as a goal, like seeing the leaked trailer, as I've mentioned plenty of times, a lot of it looks like Dark Souls stuff, and I think that's because it's older footage and there's probably a lot of placeholders. But the other thing is I think context is not being provided for these quick shots, and so like a dragon fight isn't new. Having a dragon ambush you out in the open world would be very new, and we don't know the context of that, and because it's a leaked trailer, it's not really on From Software to have convinced us of that. So I'm giving them a lot of slack still in that department. Let's see. Souls Noob says, "Do you have plans for your content when Elden Ring is released? Greetings from Switzerland." Hello, Souls Noob. I hope from Switzerland next week on Thursday when I do an earlier stream, it will be earlier for you. But thank you. My content plans are to do like a water cooler style daily upload while I'm playing the game, where I sort of I would like to say I don't put spoilers in my titles, and I don't put spoilers in my thumbnails when a game releases. I think that's super douchey, and for anyone following who's nervous, you don't have to worry about that for me, because I value that initial experience, and I don't want to ruin that for anyone. So what I'm going to do is like a water cooler style video, because I think these games are super experiential, and I really enjoy hearing people's stories. So what I'm going to do is sort of, I'm not sure if I'm going to put up a full like let's play, but I'm at least going to give like my impressions as I move through the game, and sort of like an immediate reaction sort of thing, at the end of each, play session. So it'll be like a daily upload. So, so that is my plan there. And then I'm going to do lore stuff as I feel it. And I have lots of goals, but I sort of had a lot for Sekiro. And I think I got a little bit ahead of myself, so this time I'm only committing to that at the moment, but I'm obviously very excited for Elden Ring. And I hope it supports doing a lot of shit because I'm ready to do it. And I'm doing a lot of things to gear up for it. And then, as I mentioned, there will be the Elden Ring lore website, which I will be contributing plenty of my own theories and thoughts as well. So, all right. But yeah, so I think with that, no trailer today. YouTube hates when I watch trailers every day, which is a bummer. But it is what it is. But I still want to do these live streams, and I will be doing one next Thursday earlier in the day than I've done live streams before. But thanks everyone for asking the questions and looking at the bingo cards. I really appreciate hanging out with everyone. I'm super excited. I want to plug again the Able Gamers charity that I've been running a fundraiser for. It ends Thursday coming up, April 15th. So yeah, go watch the trailer yourself. um, yeah, that charity is supporting people who have barriers to gaming and helping them get over those barriers so that they can play Elden Ring someday too. And other games as well. And I think it's a good cause, and it ends on April 15th. We're at almost $800, and I really appreciate all the support that the community has thrown out there for, a small name like myself. I just even raising that much money is incredible, and it's just nice to be able to put a fundraiser up there and have people respond. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, go watch the trail. I will do trailer watches sometimes when guests come on, but I'm trying to limit it so that YouTube doesn't get mad at me, unfortunately. But hey, I still have a lot of fun hanging out here, and I'm hyped now. I hope you're hyped too. And I'm gonna go read some more Berserk probably. So I'm gonna keep the hype rolling and just channel that into absorbing some new tangentially related Souls content. So, but have a good night, everyone, or a good early morning if you're in Switzerland, as it might be. But I'll see you Monday. There should be a guest episode going up, so look forward to that.